It's still to be determined what's really going to pan out here. It wasn't breaking news that Hynix figured in that device. You could see its chip alongside the key piece of semiconductor equipment in the new smartphone, the Kirin 9000S. That's made by SMIC, the Chinese manufacturer. That's been the focus of the Mate 60 Pro story so far. But Hynix came out today and just said, listen, we have nothing to do with this. We haven't supplied Huawei since 2020, as far back as that, when US sanctions were imposed on the company. So it really is an open question of how Huawei was able to get a hold of those Hynix chips now.
Yeah, saying, again, the company spokeswoman saying in a statement to Bloomberg, SK Hynix is strictly abiding by the U.S. government's export restrictions. So, Vlad, how could it have gotten in the phone, right? They say that they've been abiding by this. It was clearly there. How does it happen?
Well, there's a couple of possibilities. Maybe one is Huawei, conscious of the fact that it was going to get the US sanctions in 2020, built up a big inventory of components, semiconductors, etc., in the hopes of being able to bridge the gap over the coming years. So one of the particular components that you can stockpile over the years and use it later on is memory chips. They tend to improve less quickly and have less of a generational leap than logic processors. So it's possible that Huawei has actually kept a hold of some chips from Hynix from way back in 2020 and is now using them in the new smartphone. It's also worth mentioning in that context, if that is the case, that means that Huawei still has a very limited inventory and also puts kind of a cap on how many units of the Mate 60 Pro is going to be able to produce and release onto the market.
So then, Vlad, what are you paying attention to next? I mean, what is it that we need to be looking at based on what you said and based on a lot of, confusion that's right now happening with this story? And it's kind of a he said, she said situation right now.
Right. Well, the ideal thing that we would get right now is for Huawei to come out and just give us the specifics. How it acquired the chips, how its Kirin 9000S processor was made and where and when, and all those details that the company has been very quiet about. That would be ideal, that would be great. But the open questions really are, the chips that it is making, the chips that it is putting into this device, can it make them in a high enough volume, we're talking tens of millions of units, to where it can really have an impact on the market? Because for the moment, what the Mate 60 Pro represents is a symbolic victory for China. It shows that China can do, mostly with domestic manufacturing, a lot of the advanced chip making and development for a smartphone. But does it show us that it can do that at a reasonable cost? Does it show us that it can do that at tens of millions, hundreds of millions of units? We don't really know.